Hey there, do you know Texas country singer Zach Neal?
You should, because he's trying to do something never before done. Be a successful country artist out of Texas.
Interesting. Will he do it? Well, I don't know. But you're going to find out who he is and get to know a lot about him in just a little bit because he's our special guest on the show. Hey, glad to have you back. A special show today. Zach Neal will be our special guest in just a couple of minutes. We won't waste a lot of time. Hey, just want to quickly say thank you to those of you who are so supportive of Betty, my pit bull, who makes Betty's best bets.
Yes.
3-1 last weekend.
You know, I put all of our life savings on her picks, and they paid off.
Well, if you are the kind of person who throws out good vibes or you pray or whatever it is you do for people, I would love it if you could send a few her way. She had her oncology appointment. I talked about her having cancer. She's been doing great. But she had her last appointment, and not great news. She has some new masses in her body that are a little bigger than the last time, and that's not what we want to hear. And it's, Katie keeps telling me, "Don't be devastated. It's not the end." But it's just hard for me.
Yeah,
because I love her so much. But the good news is, we made an investment in a special chemotherapy for her a while back, and when you make that investment, then you've got that company's they're with you for the duration.
Oh, good.
So they are going to actually change her chemo a little bit to a slightly different formula, and we're going to try that, and hopefully we'll see some success there. The good news is, like, everything, like her weight's good, her blood cell, everything's great, except she has new masses. So I just, she's 10 years old. I'm trying to already start to wrap my head around a world without her in it, and I can't do that, and I don't want to do that.
I'm so sorry.
If you can send out some good vibes, we would really appreciate it. So on a lighter note, what are we watching? We have some great television to tell you about. Some of these you may have seen already. I know I'm late on the one I'm going to talk about. So.
Yes, if you like Knives Out and Glass Onion, the writer-director of that has a new series out on Paramount+. Rach and I watched the first episode. It's called Poker Face. It's great.
Natasha Lyonne, right? Isn't she the star of that?
Adrian Brody's in it, and there's a ton of people coming this season that we don't know how they're being used yet, but A-listers.
So is that why she was in that particular moment in Knives Out? Was this the same character?
No.
Oh, okay. That was just a...
No, but I don't know, because you know what? She was in Orange is the New Black.
Right.
And one of the characters in this, her best friend, was in Orange is the New Black. And I'm like, oh, it just maybe has the same casting director or something.
Because I knew she was in that show Russian Doll where she couldn't die or whatever. We tried to watch that, and...
Yeah, Rach loved that one.
I couldn't get into it. So can you give me a nutshell plot?
She is in a cheesy, sleazy casino as a waitress because she was banned from gambling because she was such a good gambler, because she can tell if someone's lying. Absolutely. And then there's a murder that happens, and they realize she's figured it out and is working on it. And so you'll just have to...
Okay, yeah, well, we'll definitely check that out. And then there's another one I think that you're...
The Hunters. The first season was a few years ago. It has Al Pacino and many great actors, a lot of character actors that you'll recognize.
Yeah, I was going to say faces you'll know, maybe not names.
And the storyline is it's the late 70s, and it's a group of Jewish folks that are going after Nazis that survived the war and are hiding out, and they're taking them out. And the second season is not a disappointment, and it's the final season, so this is it.
Okay. I was wondering what was going on, because for a month or so now, Amazon's really been pushing Hunters on me. And I was like, dude, I kept saying out loud, Amazon, I've seen Hunters.
They were just getting you warmed up for season 2. And I'm telling you, it's I think 8 episodes a season, so you could zip through it pretty quick. It's good.
Yeah.
It wants to be Quentin Tarantino. It doesn't quite make it to Quentin Tarantino level, but it's good.
Yeah, well, the first season was spectacular. So, oh man, I'm excited to see the second one. Awesome. And then this is one that when I first saw the previews for it, and it was sometime last year, maybe last summer when I think this came out, and I saw the trailer for it, and I was like, oh man, we are going to watch this, and we got so excited to watch it. And then just too much new content came out at once. And so we never got around to watching it, but we're watching it now. It's called The Offer.
It's based on the Mike the Pillow Guy, and it's his offer of slippers and bedding, and oh, that's not it.
I'll go to my grave never having put a penny in that man's pocket. I can promise you that. Crazy son of a bitch. But anyway, this is about the making of The Godfather. Now, you may say to yourself, I don't even like The Godfather, so I don't care about this. I would put it to you that if you like movies, this is 100% worth watching, because you get to see the incredible path it takes from an idea to getting a movie made.
Oh, yeah.
Now, this movie in particular was a very big challenge to get made. It was a huge monster epic book and the whole thing. It's an incredible cast. It's a great look back at Hollywood in the late 60s, early 70s. And if you're a fan of The Godfather, and boy, in our house, we sure are, it is a fascinating look at how this movie got made. And it's based on the producers, basically, they say based on the recollections of Albert Ruddy. And if you don't know that name, most people don't, but you can thank him for Hogan's Heroes.
Oh, I'm in.
This is not a spoiler. I'll give you this much because you will love this because this is your kind of thing I could see you doing. So he worked for a company called Rand, and they're like a computer programming. They do all kinds of crazy stuff. If you saw The Post, the company that Matthew Reese, the guy who delivered the Pentagon Papers, he worked for Rand.
Okay.
Same company. So this guy works for Rand. He has no interest. He doesn't work in television. He has a friend who's in television. And he has an idea for a show. He says, yeah, we've done the Westerns. We've done this. He said, what if we make it funny by putting them in a place where you wouldn't expect people to be funny? And they show the pitch that he did for Hogan's Heroes to the guys. They did one pitch for another show, and the guy was like, what else you got? And they kind of didn't say anything, and all the executives start to get up and leave, and he goes, what about this? And he does the pitch, and it's this crazy cool pitch. And the head of the guy goes, have you pitched this to anybody else? And he goes, no. He goes, good, because you just sold it to us. And it was crazy. This guy with no experience whatsoever went in and made the pitch and did Hogan's Heroes, and then somehow tripped over his rear end into Robert Evans, one of the biggest producers of all time, and got the gig at Paramount and went on to produce The Godfather.
And I believe, and I've seen it on TikTok. I have seen scenes from The Fabelman. I have not seen the movie yet, The Fabelmans, but Spielberg got his break from a guy that created Hogan's Heroes. So I'm wondering if it's that he walks in and the guy's like, you don't want to be in TV. You want to be in movies. Here's who you need to talk to. And he walks him into a guy's office.
That's very likely. It could be the same guy because that was his thing. He's like, you can't get anywhere on television. You can't tell stories on TV. You have to tell stories in the movies.
Yeah.
Because he walked away from Hogan's Heroes when it was successful, I guess, to get into movies. It is a it's 10 episodes. We're so excited about it. And as we're watching it, it's just blowing our minds. And I want to look stuff up and see how accurate it is, but I figure it's based on this guy's experiences of making
you don't want to ruin it.
So I don't want to, but man, it is a fantastic series. If you've seen it, you already know that. If you have seen it, I'd love to see your reviews in the comments. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend.
Doesn't it just kill you, though, when you look up something that's like based on a true story and then you find out there's really not, like The Martian? I was so excited. And I look it up like, we've never even been to Mars.
It's crazy that you bring that up, though. I just read an article, actually, about movies based on a true story that actually were not even close.
Yeah.
And some of them were heartbreaking. I was like, oh, gosh, it's like it's not even in the same ballpark. And
well, I think about that Seinfeld scene where Kramer's talking. He's like, well, you know, once he got that coffee table book pitched into a movie, and he's like, what movie? Independence Day? It's like, what?
Yeah, but it was tough to read some of those because, you know, when they tell you it's based on a true story, we all assume that
you want it to be.
But, you know, they can take the tiniest piece of truth and then the rest of it. So this is great. And speaking of television, here's some very exciting news. And thank God this is going to happen. The 21st season of American Idol, they've made it official. It is coming back.
Well, we would have to have it back. America, for 21 years now, has been so low on idols.
Yes, where will we get our idols?
So thank you, everyone at the network, for bringing it back so that we can have people to worship.
I mean, look, admittedly, when this show first came on...
Oh, we were all over it.
Yeah, and it was a fun show to watch, but it never was able to match what they had when they had Simon, Randy, and Paula.
Well, the third year or fourth year, it started going, okay, now people are singing bad to get on TV. And radio stations like us were sending producers down to sing bad to try to get on. And the fun of the first couple of years for me were watching people that can't sing be devastated and then get angry and be like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, and get thrown out or whatever. And it's like, wow, if that's how you handle rejection, what are you going to do when you're performing for 15,000 people and 1,000 people leave you snotty remarks?
Well, yeah, it's just,
I mean,
and shame. We used to say this all the time. Shame on these people's families. And I know it's tough. You don't want to crush your kid's dream, and I understand. But there comes a time when you have to start having a conversation that may be a little tough. That's like, hey, honey, I know you enjoy doing this, but you know you're gonna do this.
And you know what? I will give a tip here because I still see this happening today. The amount of people that get on there that can sing a little bit and they go, "You're just not ready yet," and they're like, "But can't you teach me?" And it's like, there's 1 million people in the country right now that can sing beautifully, and it's that percentage of people that are willing to pack up and move to LA or New York or Nashville and get into Austin, get in the scene, meet people, learn the business. And it's show business, not show friends or anything like that, and learn it. And the amount of people on that show those first few years were like, but I can sing. And they're like, yes, you can, but teach me, just give it to me.
And when you see that, you can see why artists who made it before these shows were a thing get a little bitter.
Yeah.
Because they did come up the hard way. They did put in the work. And to see someone get a jump start like that.
I think that's the reason why you see so many fail. I mean, there's only a handful out of 21 seasons that you can, oh, yeah, I remember them. Because so many of them, they get their big, oh, I made it. And then you don't know how to work a small bar room. You don't know if everybody's against you in the crowd or they're just not into it. I saw you too. And I mean, we know how legendary they are.
Never heard of them.
Halfway through a show, the crowd started singing. He goes, finally, I got you, won you over. Like he knew the vibe wasn't there yet in a show. I mean, you've got to learn how to work a crowd.
Well, I think what happens to a lot of these kids too, and it's unfortunate, especially on shows like The Voice, it's not about the singer. The Voice isn't about making anybody a star on that show. They already have their stars, and they want people to watch for the camaraderie between Blake and Adam, or between Ariana and whoever. I don't watch the show anymore, but when so many of those shows started coming out, competing against each other, it all just became white noise, and nobody cared. And because honestly, when's the last time you remember an American Idol winner, not just maybe because you watched the show, but because they went on to something big?
Well, not only that, I'll see that and raise you, just when's the last time you remember somebody that didn't already have a record deal being on there? Like most everybody now is somebody that's already been to an area, tried, and it's like, okay, we'll use you next season.
Well, we've watched people who have had a deal, who had a hit or two, and then lost it, and so then they go on that show, and I'm like, well, that's not really what the show is designed to do. It's not supposed to be that. It's not like the days of discovering Carrie Underwood. I mean, if we hadn't had a show like that, she told us herself when we had her on our radio show, if I had not had this opportunity, I probably wouldn't have made this, because I wasn't a bar singer. I wasn't going to be a bar singer. I wasn't going down that path, and that was really the main path for country singers anyway at that time. The Kelly Clarksons, the Carrie Underwoods, even Scotty McCreery, later in American Idol, we're just not seeing those. And not that these people aren't talented, but it's just too much going on, and record labels aren't what they used to be, and neither is the radio, so they're just not getting what they need to jump. And that's why if I were them, I wouldn't waste my time going on a TV show. I would go to YouTube, do what Kane Brown did.
Yeah, sing everywhere and anywhere you can.
Cultivate your own audience so that you can walk in someplace and go, hey, look, I've already got X amount of people.
I can tell you 2 people I know right now that are in Nashville working, and they've been told by every record label in town, get your socials and get your following up, then come back.
They don't have the staff anymore to do the work.
So get your hometown wrapped up. Get them to be super fans, and then move to another town and get them to wrapped up, and then go to a city and say, okay, I've got this behind me.
And once you've got tens of thousands of subscribers on YouTube, then let us know and we'll put you on our show.
Exactly.
Because you can help us get more subscribers. Well, speaking of country music, and speaking of music and singers, and there are so many great ones out there, but we're really excited to have this guy on the show. He is the 2022 Texas Country Music Association Male Artist of the Year. He's gotten 4 consecutive top 40 Texas country singles that have gone big. His latest single, which has been out now for a little while, All the Pretty Horses, is available on
Doing amazing.
Yeah, Apple Music, Spotify, the whole thing. If you like real country music out of Texas, you are going to love this guy. We were so excited to get a chance to sit down and talk to him.
And after this interview, you're going to love him even more, and you've got to follow his stuff.
Yeah, so let's see our chat with Zach Neal. Zach, how you doing, man?
Hey, doing good. It's good to be with y'all.
Well, listen, for us and for anybody else who may be going, oh, okay, Zach's new to me. I know you've got a ton of fans. You've won awards. You've had big hits. Let's do a quick history of Zach. And one of the big things we see when if anybody looks you up on the internet, one of the first lines in the bio comes up is, you weren't supposed to be doing this. There was something else you were supposed to be doing. So maybe a little history there.
Yeah, I was just a farm kid. I was going to grow up and I was going to do the family farming thing. That's what I thought I was going to do with my life. I come from several generations of farmers, and life had other plans. And 16 years old, we did a Battle of the Bands competition, and we tied for first. We didn't win, but we tied. Little suspect judging there, maybe. I don't know. But hey, but hey, I didn't make the rules. And next thing you know, one of the judges was like, "Hey, man, I think you might be interested in doing this for a living. Let me introduce you to some people." And
wow,
I was like 16, so you just kind of go, "Oh, that sounds great. Yeah, let's go do that." I've been doing music ever since.
Wow. And usually when someone says, hey, let me introduce you to people, that means they're hoping you'll do all the work, pop real big, and then they get to ride your coattails.
Well, what's funny is he was like a rock guy. Like he was like a West Coast. Like I think he's like a Grammy nominated for like a Chili Peppers record or something, So
wow, okay.
so country really wasn't, his kind of thing. But he's like, well, I know some guys in Nashville, so if you're interested, I can at least make some calls and make the introductions,
Interesting.
And so,
I guess when you're a 16-year-old kid not thinking this was going to be the thing, even having that as kind of an introduction for people was a huge thing.
Oh, it was huge because up until that moment, music was like, hey, we're buddies, we're in high school, it's fun, we love country music, and that's really as far as it went. There was no like career goals at that point. It was like, oh, this will be fun, something we can do for a while till we all go to college and. And then the real world hits and you go start farming,
Well, yeah, you're living out the Summer of '69 song where, everybody thought they were going to do it, but then somebody quits, somebody gets married, people move on with their lives.
Did you have a moment at all coming up that you were like, yeah, this is maybe I need to cash it in and go back to farming, or have you just been straight on?
Well, I'll tell you this, it's funny. Farming was a wonderful background for me because, the music world, just like every business, it's tough, right? It's a contact sport. But, I spent a lot of time growing up knowing what hard work really was with farming. And so sometimes when you get a little pity party sometimes for yourself, you're like, yeah. You know what? I could be out on a tractor with no air conditioning in the hot summer heat, and it's like, oh man, this isn't so bad, Yeah,
it's funny though. You think about how lucrative being a superstar can be, but think of how lucrative it could be to be someone that produces eggs right now.
You know what? I saw this morning that they're smuggling eggs in from Mexico. Have you seen this?
No.
So this morning I'm drinking coffee, and sure enough, this headline comes across: smuggling eggs from Mexico because of the high price of eggs. And I thought, what is happening?
Unreal.
Yeah, I said maybe we should start an egg cartel or something. I don't know,
or at least egg merch.
Egg
for
merch
your shows.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Can you charge more for egg merch than a regular shirt?
Yes, as long as it's got your name stamped on it.
I was going to say, these are official Zach Neal eggs, and you got something.
Say it's a good egg. He's a good egg.
Well played.
Nicely done. Well, let's talk a little bit about being a Texas guy. Texas singers and songwriters are special, and we've been so lucky in this country and in the genre of country to get so many incredible people coming out of Texas. What is it about Texas country music, Texas people, Texas country, whatever, that makes it so special? What is it that it ties you guys so tightly?
I think the first thing is that, man, Texas, almost more than anywhere I've been, is they love live music. Everybody loves live music, but I mean, they have grocery stores in Texas that have stages out behind the grocery store that you can go play shows at. Like,
wow,
yeah, it's just there's a stage everywhere in Texas. So it's just such a part of the culture. I think is the first thing down there, and then secondly, I think that, and this is not a knock against what's happening in mainstream country at all. I mean, there's room for everything. Right. But I think that maybe some of the mainstream stuff has maybe gotten a little away from maybe the roots of country music a little more. And everything changes. Everything changes and pendulum swings back and forth. But I think with Texas country, it's just, it's a little more rootsy. I think in the sound and the production choices and stuff that they take, And so I think that just appeals to a lot of people. So
who is your favorite, besides yourself, favorite country artist to come out of Texas?
Oh, man, it's come out of Texas. Of course, it's hard not to say George Strait. I mean,
He's from Texas? I had no idea.
I think he's from there. But of course, it's funny because I love the Texas stuff. And, of course, I'm a big, no surprise, I'm a big Merle Haggard guy, and all that kind of stuff, too. But I was a big Chestnut. Speaking of Texas, I was a big Mark Chestnut fan. That's the era I grew up in. So he was kind of ruling the radio at that time, and I was a big Mark Chestnut fan for sure.
I love that you brought him up. My wife and I were out the other day just running some errands, and there's a station here in East Tennessee that plays just old country music, and All My Old Flames Have New Names came on, and she was not familiar with that song, and she was just laughing, and she goes, "Oh my God, who is this?" That's it. Mark Chestnut, baby. You're getting the dose.
Mark Chestnut, we love him. By the way, the last time he was in with us to do an interview, fantastic, very just kind, humble, just a great guy. But years earlier, and it was when I Don't Want to Miss a Thing was out, which he was not apparently fond of recording, but was kind of forced into it. And during the middle of the interview, he just stood up, turned around, started looking out the window. And we're like,
Mark?
you know,
I know we're not great at this, but I've never had somebody get up and turn their back on me in the middle of an interview before. It was pretty wild.
Well, if he wasn't fond of the song, it wasn't you. It was the song. You know. It was,
oh yeah.
Thank you for making us. It took us all this time. It's like I'm having a therapy session. Why does Mark Chestnut like me?
He's great last time, and I do love him. Man, his music's great.
Well, it's funny you mentioned All My Old Flames, that song. So, you know, I mean, now we play a lot of, like, you know, my stuff, right? You know, it's a show that we do. Yeah. But of course, when you're starting out, you're playing all these covers, you know, and you're playing bars, and of course, people ask for everything, you know. And I had a lady come up and ask for that song one night, and it's one of those. I was like, okay, let's see if we can do it. I think to this day, it's probably the worst performance on stage I have ever done, because I mean, it was just a train wreck. It's one of those songs you go, oh yeah, I remember this. I think we can do this. And you're 10 seconds in going, we can't do this. And it was awful, you know. So it's just funny that's the song you picked.
That's awesome.
When you are performing and you're going to do if you're like not expecting it and you have to do a cover, what's your go-to cover song?
It probably changes, but I'll tell you one that we do right now that's actually part of the show is there's an old Hal Ketchum song called Pat's Point of Rescue.
Love that song.
And it's one of those songs that we kind of slid into the set list because it's like when you play it, people remember it. But it's not one of those songs that's, you know, it's not like, you know, it's not a Friends in Low Places. It's not.
Yeah, sure.
There's not many of those kinds of songs.
Well, that's like that's the way Brooks and Dunn did My Maria. You want to do a song that people remember, but it wasn't just iconic.
Exactly. And so because of that, you know, we do it pretty close to the original, but we do a couple things live with it. It's a little more showy and that we have a lot of fun with, you know. But it's cool when you start playing it. You can just see it. People go, "Oh man, I remember that song."
Well, that's it, because there aren't a lot of songs that have that kind of haunting minor key feel, and the vibe of that song is so different.
That's exactly it. And honestly, it's fun to play. It's got a lot of cool, like, the musician in us nerds out, you know, and it's like this cool chord changes and some really cool things happen in the song that are fun to play.
Well, you know, you're talking about what's fun to play and everything. Is there a song that you said, hey, we need to add this in, and you learned it and you worked it up and then realized, yeah, we don't need to be playing this?
I'm sure of it. I think there's more than one, probably. You know what? I think, you remember that Daryl Singletary song, Too Much Fun?
Yeah.
Yes.
Man, I used to play it all the time because when you play bars and clubs and, you know, doing all the covers, it was like, you know, people were line dancing and all that stuff. And it was like people seemed to really dig it. Well, then when we started making it more of a show, you know, a 60-minute or 90-minute set, man, you play that song and I love the song. It's fun, but it just seems like it's kind of like, it just doesn't seem to. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I don't sing it very well.
I doubt that's the case, but
yeah,
I guess that makes sense. Though, and there's so many things out there to choose from too, and sometimes you don't know because, like, you know, we talked about this, and it doesn't have to be just music. It can be anything. You have an idea, and you think this is a great idea. This is going to be awesome, and then as you start to execute it, you realize, in my head, it didn't seem like this. It seemed like it was going to be better.
I mean, it could have been worse. I mean, you picked Daryl Singletary. That's a fantastic artist to pick to cover. I mean, you could have said brown chicken, brown cow.
I could have said that, you know. And you know what? You know, there's nights where that might have gone over better.
Zach, you were talking about, you know, nerding out and the chord changes and musicianship and everything. Did you teach? Are you self-taught, or did you learn? Did you take music lessons? Because I'm blown away by how many, not just like regular everyday people that we see, but like legends, like Lindsey Buckingham, can't read music, never took a lesson, taught himself to play, and it's fascinating.
So I was really fortunate. I'm the youngest of 4 kids, and my parents had us all take piano lessons when we were real young. And I'll be honest, I hated it. I was miserable. Because I was playing all this classical music, and I was like, I do not like this. You know, I was like 8 years old going, why? I don't care for this at all. And, but I'm so grateful for it because, that kind of laid the foundation for understanding music, you know. I mean, and I think you talk to a lot of guys, man, piano players know more theory and more about music than just about anybody. You know, they're fun to write with because they come up with melodies that on a guitar I would never come up with.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and so I love writing with piano players, but I wish I could play it. I wish I was a good piano player, but I begged my parents for a guitar, like, please give me something I can enjoy, you know. And they did, but I'm very grateful for the background of music, and you know, so I know enough theory to get me by, you know.
Okay,
but if you put a piece of sheet music in front of me, I'd have to sit there for 10 minutes and go, okay.
Yeah. I think unless you keep that, I mean, because that's like exercising, you know, if you don't keep that up, I know that, I mean,
Yeah.
I same situation. I'm not a musician, obviously, but as a kid, my mom played piano and organ. And so I had to take those lessons, and the same thing. I was like, I don't care about this. I don't want to do this, but I'm so happy that she did. I went on to become a drummer in high school and college, and everybody made fun of drummers for not being musical. And I was like, hey, man, I can read music. So, you know, leave me alone.
Yeah.
But now, all these years later, because I don't do it very much, I would have to sit down and really take a hard look at it. And it would still probably look pretty foreign to me.
I'm more of a modern country artist now where I don't play any instruments, but I just hold them and then someone else plays it, or they play to a track.
Hey, you know what? Work smarter, not harder, right? I mean,
Exactly.
Well, you know, what is it for your money? Where are we? Let's have a state of the country music address. What do you think about the state of country music right now?
Oh man, you're just trying to get me in trouble.
No, there's no trouble. I mean, no judgment.
No, man, it's like I said earlier. There's so much. First of all, there's so many talented people. That's the first thing. You know, and it's kind of that old. There's two kinds of music, good and bad. And just because I don't, you know, I'm much more of on the traditional side of country. I like country music that sounds like country music to me, you know. But
Right.
I say that, and what I think sounds like country music, some other people may not agree with, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't spend a lot of time worrying about it, you know. I kind of focus on, okay, I love fiddle. I'm a fiddle guy. Like, if you listen to my stuff, there's fiddle on pretty much everything I do. You know, I just love it. And it's a big part of the sound that I have. So, you know, I like those elements of country, but I also think there's some really cool elements that aren't in that vein. You know, there's guys doing stuff that are just, you know, like there's some really cool drum stuff going on that used to be, you know, they'd go, that wasn't country 10 years ago. Now it's, you know, everything's always changing, but I definitely prefer my country for my personal taste to sound like country music, you know, if that makes any sense.
Yes, absolutely.
Totally. And,
you know,
and we all define that differently, but you're right. And I think in the most general sense, in the most general terms, I've been doing country music since 1986, 87, as far as a job. And it's, you know, and we know this, it's cyclical. You know, it comes around and it goes to the same thing over and over again. So we get a little poppy, then we get back to more traditional, then we go to poppy again, and it just never changes, really.
And I always say that country music's very similar to how you can tell how old someone is by who their favorite cast from SNL is, or you know, other things when they say, oh, this was, you know, music wasn't as good as it was when I was, and it's usually between 16 and 25. Whatever was popular then is that's what it is. And when like Tony was saying, we remember when Garth came on the scene and Alan Jackson and them, and they were pushing out the Alabamas and pushing out the George Jones and those guys. Yeah. And everybody was like, they're not real. Garth isn't real country. And then you flash forward to Jason Aldean coming out and everybody going, he's not Garth. He's not real country. And it's like, well, you know, it just changes.
Well, and honestly, I think it's important that it changes because I love traditional. I'm a big Mark Chestnut fan. Well, if everybody sounded like Mark Chestnut, then there's nothing that interesting about it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that having that variety is really important because it's like, I love this element of country music, but if everybody's doing it, then it just all sounds the same. You know,
I can't give the quote proper credit, but someone said you can't do anything memorable by doing what everyone else is doing.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think with any art, movies, television, plays, music, paintings, take your pick. If everybody just did the same thing, well, where would we be? It would be so boring and bland. So at least, I mean, the nice thing about these kind of conversations, and for us it is just a conversation, but it also gives people a chance to debate, maybe a little too hotly sometimes, but that's what art is supposed to do. It's supposed to make us think and talk and have these conversations.
Well, that also excites me to a degree because people like yourself that, you know, we haven't heard you on the radio that much here up until this point. But you've got all these platforms to get your music out there now, and people are finding you, and you're growing into a superstar, where in the old days, 30 years ago, it'd have been hard to get your foot in the door because there was a waiting list.
That's absolutely right. And something, we were just out in Denver a couple of weeks ago, and it was funny because we actually opened a couple different nights for two very different people. So we did our set, 60-minute set, but the headliners on the Friday night and the Saturday night, you could argue probably couldn't be that any more different from each other,
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really interesting because the crowd on the Friday night, what that headliner did is so different than what we do.
Mm.
But what was kind of interesting is, you get done the show or the next morning, you start looking at your socials or your metrics,
Mm-hmm.
and you start going, man, my things kind of went like that, So I guess some of the people in his audience liked what we did, even though we couldn't be more different. The funny thing is, the next night we opened for Ned Ledoux, and so of course that's much more of a country cowboy crowd, which is a lot more of my vein. And it was the same thing. The metrics the next day, same thing. Well, who's this Zach guy? Who's this guy? And they went up. And so I think, to me, what it tells me is, even though it's very different, I think genres now, and you guys know this, there's people that will listen to a sad, Alan Jackson song, and then the next song might be Eminem,
Totally
on their playlist. I think people seem to have a lot more. The music seems to be a lot more mixed now,
Yes,
as opposed
absolutely.
to, I love country music. I love rock. I love rap or whatever. It's people seem to love kind of all of it,
Well, I think the iPod Shuffle took care of that when that came out, and got people listening to different. Because when I was growing up, you had 4 or 5 radio stations, and whatever station was your favorite, that was the format of music you listened to. And now, like we were saying, there's 8 gazillion different ways to get your music out there. People can find music. I mean, Tony's daughter was turning us on to artists years before they became mainstream because they found them, and we don't know how they found them.
Yep.
Kids, man.
The internet, man. It just,
I know.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny, because we're doing this digital thing now, and we're learning so much about it. And we'll say something that we think is fairly new that we've learned, and find out from somebody, 20 years our juniors. Oh, man, we've been talking about that for 6 months. You guys are way behind, so we're still catching up.
Yeah, sure.
Talking about music, let's quickly let everybody know where they can find you. ZachNeilMusic.com is home base, right?
That's right. Yeah, ZachNeilMusic.com. Of course, the socials, Facebook, Instagram, at Zach Neil Music. I'm even on TikTok, and I'm still really not really sure what I haven't quite done a goofy dance on there yet, but it's probably coming. It's probably going to happen. Tom's probably going to make me do that. And then
get him to do one.
I would like to see that very much.
Yeah.
TikTok Tom.
You might be onto something there.
I think that's something.
I think that's it. I think that is it. And then of course, everywhere you stream your music, all the streaming, Spotify, Apple,
Fantastic.
all
We'll put
everyone give them a listen.
Yeah, we'll put all that information in the description so you can get down there, check the links, and go. If you haven't discovered Zach yet, go discover some great country music.
And tell your friends.
Tell friends. And man, Zach, we really appreciate you taking the time out. We know you're busy, got a lot going on. Talk to a little show like us. That means a lot to us.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
It's a pleasure, man. We'll talk to you soon. Good luck out there. How cool is that guy?
Yeah, he sounds like Chris Young when he talks. Like they both have that deep.
Yeah, I can hear that. It's always funny. We've never met him before. That's the first time we've ever spoken.
We have some mutual friends, and man, he's great.
Yeah, so get out there and get your Zach Neil. All his information is in the description, including links to his Spotify and everything else if you want to check out some great music.
Start following him and let him know you saw him here.
Yeah, please, for sure. All his socials are right there on his website, ZachNeilMusic.com. Again, that link is in the description. Well, that's it. We're going to wrap it today with that because, how do we top?
We can't. Yeah. It's impossible.
Why even try? That's my motto my whole life. Why even try? We thank you so much for watching. And just a quick shout out, and I know we have several people we want to thank, but we got to say he's becoming our number one YouTube TK1.
Yes.
Steven Snyder.
Thank you.
Our last show sent out a super thanks for us. And listen, we appreciate anything you throw our way in the way of money is great because we are trying to monetize this into a point where we're making it our livelihood. And there are many ways you can do that. Here on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. We're working on all those things.
And please like us, share the post, everything we do on social, share it, please. We need your friends to follow us too.
Merch store coming soon. For those of you who want to get your hands on some goodies, we'll have that up really, really soon. And thank you. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, do that now. Make that your last order of business. And then we'll see you on the next show. Thanks so much.